Hello, everyone. My name is Manuel. So I work at Facebook on the MySQL engineering team. I've been working there for about 4 years. I've worked mostly on the MyRocks project, but I've also worked on the client stack, the optimizer, and whatnot. Today and lately, I've been helping with the effort to migrate to 8.0. Today, we're going to talk about the challenges that we faced and how we're deploying MySQL 8.0 to Facebook. So this talk was actually given at Percona Live, Austin, by my coworker Herman. But his talk was only 20 minutes long, and I have 45 minutes, so I guess we'll have plenty of questions at the end. So at Facebook, we're currently running on MySQL 5.6. And before that, we were on 5.1. Over the years, we've actually added many features of our own on top of our own branch at Facebook. So, as you can see, this list includes stuff like the async clients. We've improved the optimizer. We've improved how replication works. We've also added, patches in InnoDB, such as, adding more stats, adding reduced double write buffer, and also online defrag. Another big thing that we added is an entirely new storage engine called MyRocks, which is a storage engine based on RocksDB. For about 3 years, the team has been working on developing and deploying MyRocks at our company. So because of that, we actually skipped porting to 5.7. And that's why we have to port across 2 major versions. So the picture on the right basically shows roughly how many patches we have in each of the areas in the server. By the way, this is all on GitHub, so anyone can follow along on the work that we've been doing. So the challenge in migrating for us is just the volume of features that we have to port from 5.6 to 8.0. A lot of these features are not straight ports. For example, for MyRocks, it's not very easy to port. We have to make sure that it conforms to new storage engine APIs. Because of the InnoDB data dictionary, this means that we now have to support cross-engine transactions. So we have to test whether that works. Because we skipped 5.7, we also now have to deal with native partitioning support. Other things that are not quite straight ports include making sure that replication works between 5.6 and 8.0. So basically, at Facebook, we have to make sure that we don't bring our data offline during the migration to 8.0. So this means that servers have to be up and running, and we have to do like an online migration. And on the right, you can basically see how we plan to do that. It basically involves replacing our slaves with 8.0. And then eventually replacing promoting an 8.0 slave into an 8.0 master. We'll come back to this later as to what our different stages of rollouts are. In addition to this, we also have many other features that are not quite easy to port. And you can look at our GitHub page. We have over 2,000 commits. So other challenges that we have include deprecating large features. So at Facebook, sometimes we develop features ahead of upstream. For example, we actually wrote DocStore before Oracle came out with DocStore. But this means that as we migrate to 8.0, these 2 features kind of conflict with each other, and we have to deprecate our own feature and migrate to the upstream version of document store. Another example that's fairly similar to DocStore is the select skip locked feature in InnoDB. We've also, we have written something very similar to this, but now something equivalent is offered in upstream, but the syntax is slightly different. So now we have to deprecate our own feature and migrate to the new one. We also have to update all our automation and monitoring around MySQL that we have. So these are basically scripts that we have that do useful things like making new replicas from an existing replica. All the monitoring that we have that reads information schema in 5.6 that we now have to read from performance schema in 8.0. And finally, we have to make sure that 8.0 is still correct. And for this, we actually have something called the data correctness tool that we developed at Facebook. This was initially used when we migrated, started deploying MyRocks onto our fleet, and it's used to check. It's useful for checking for several things. So it can check whether your master and slaves are consistent, and it starts a snapshot of the same GTID across your master and slaves, and then checks if the data being read at these two snapshots are the same. It also checks for stuff like whether your primary keys and secondary keys are equivalent. Your data should look the same, independent of which indexes you're using. So with all these challenges to migrating to 8.0, why do we bother at all, right? First, there are many new features in 8.0, and this includes any features in 5.7 actually, since we're migrating from 5.6. Stuff that's new include atomic DDL. We also have several features in replication that we'd like to evaluate. So this includes write set parallel replication, as well as group replication. Instant add column is actually kind of interesting for us because it lets our internal customers do schema changes much more quickly. And adding columns is a fairly common DDL operation. And we also have protocol X. We've heard that it's more efficient and more flexible protocol, so we'd like to evaluate whether it's useful for us or not. The other reason why we want to migrate to 8.0 is we've actually been backporting a lot of features from later major versions onto 5.6. For example, we backported server sessions from 5.7 to 5.6, and this was a feature in upstream that was used to support protocol X. We've also tried, to see if we can backport atomic DDL, but we didn't do that. And we just decided that we should just migrate to 8.0 instead. And last but not least, we want to go to 8.0 so that we can keep engaging with the MySQL community. So there's lots of benefits to being open source and working with the community. We get many bug reports for MyRocks from the community, and some of them have actually helped us catch issues before they occur in production for us. We also have developers that contribute fixes and features to MyRocks. So it's free work being done for us. Most of the MyRocks community actually today is running on 5.7 from Percona or MariaDB, but eventually the community will move on to 8.0, and we don't want to be left behind. Also, by migrating to 8.0, we can also provide feedback to the community on how to improve 8.0. So now that we've talked about why I want to move to 8.0, let's talk about how we actually plan to do it. So we know that clients will have to support talking to both 5.6 and 8.0 servers, so we decide to migrate them first. So this includes all our command line tools like MySQL dump, MySQL binlog, and MySQL CLI. But this also includes all our client libraries and connectors. This pretty much implies that we have to port the async client over from 5.6 to 8.0 to finish phase 1. After this, after we've migrated all our clients to 8.0, we can start migrating server features. And this actually included several rebases. We started our porting process on 8.0.4, which was still a release candidate release. But as newer releases have come out, we've actually been rebasing our patches on top of newer releases. And as we're finishing up, porting our server features, we're now also testing and updating our automation control plane so that it's just making sure that it can still talk to MySQL properly. The third and final phase is basically MyRocks. At this point, we will have already started migrating some of our customers using DB onto 8.0, so we can start focusing on porting the MyRocks pieces onto 8.0. Yeah, luckily, Percona has already done the port for MyRocks to 8.0, so hopefully we can, share some of the work there. Okay, so what kinds of features that do we need to do to port? So in our branch of MySQL, we actually have table statistics and user statistics in information schema. And we basically made the choice that instead of carrying these stats patches around, we should start using performance schema, which is the recommended way of keeping track of stats in MySQL from upstream. We also finish porting all our client-related changes. So this includes any change enhancements that we've made to the CLIs like MySQL dump, MySQL binlog, as well as the async client. Actually, the async client recently got upstreamed, and it got released in 8.0.16. So this means that we don't have to worry about porting this one patch over and over, forever. Other patches that we completed in the client area include, optimizations in SSL, amongst other things. We've actually also completed most of our server-related changes. This includes the InnoDB reduced double write buffer, logical read ahead, and storing binlog coordinates in the engine for crash recovery. We've also ported most of our replication-related changes, as well as read-only database, and also compiling with JMalloc. If we have time and people are interested, I can spend more time talking about the different features that we have in the Facebook branch. So starting around the beginning of this year, we've actually asked Percona to help with some of the porting from 5.6 to 8.0. And they've actually helped us find and fix bugs and ports that we've done previously. In addition to that, we've also helped us port some fairly major features that we've yet to port. So this includes HyperID-DDL, database admission control, potent recovery, and row-based dependency replication. Again, I can talk more about these features if there's interest. So this work, because this is across companies, this work is all done in the public via pull requests on GitHub, so people are welcome to follow along if they want to. So in addition to porting, we also have a long list of tools and services that we have doing automation that we have to test with in 8.0. We have to update them so that they work both with 5.6 and 8.0. So examples of what these tools might be doing include stuff like backups or detecting when masters are down and promoting slaves to masters. We also have scripts that replace servers that go out of commission and spin up new ones. Most of the issues that we've actually hit when updating automation include stuff like, there's a lot of automation that used to reference information schema that must now reference performance schema because some of the tables have shifted around. Some variable names have changed, like transaction isolation. So now we have to make sure that we use the correct variable name depending on which server version that we're querying. Some other changes were fairly drastic. For example, the addition of dynamic privileges changed how the provisioning of secure roles worked in MySQL. For testing, we've mostly been using replicate sets put on virtual machines. The main advantage of doing this way is so that we can set up and tear down machines fairly quickly. So recall earlier that we want to keep data online during the migration. So we don't want to upgrade to 8.0 all at once in case, and also we don't want to upgrade all at once in case we encounter issues and we want to roll back. So this gives us some milestones that we want to hit for our automation. So the first thing that we absolutely need is spinning up new machines on 8.0. So we decided that we were not going to do in-place binary upgrades, so we're just going to dump and reload 5.6 instances onto 8.0. So the first step is just making sure the scripts that do this dump and restore still work with the two versions. the next step, the next phase is basically having a disabled slave. And this basically tests 5.6 to 8.0 replication. It's just making sure that both binaries still interpret the protocol in the same way and there's no issues happening there. Other things that we're testing with a disabled slave include pulling off statistics from the server, just making sure that reading stats still work. As I said before, some stats have moved locations, so we're just watching out for query errors and whatnot. We also have other background health checks on the host for detecting server issues, and we just want to make sure that these still work. The next phase is, the third phase would be readable slave. So now we turn on read traffic from production. This means that if we return wrong result sets, now clients are seeing these wrong result sets. So we have to make sure that we need reasonable confidence that things still work. So this includes updating our automation to follow schema changes done on the replica set. We also have to update our automation so that we're now following shard migrations happening on replica sets. Shard migration is basically the way we rebalance data between servers. And finally, we have the final phase is promoting our 8.0 slaves to a master. Basically, we have to make sure that promotions actually work. We do our backups off of master, so now we also have to make sure that our backup script still works against 8.0 servers. So it really depends on the sizes vary fairly widely, but I think our larger ones are close to 2 terabytes. So it's quite a bit of data, and it takes quite a bit of time to dump and reload. So here's a small sample of issues that we've hit while moving to 8.0. So we've had a number of upstream bugs. The first one is actually a bug we found in the client library. And because of the way it was handling signal handlers, it caused issues in client applications. The second one was just an example of a bug that we wanted to catch for replication between 5.6 and 8.0. The bug was that the 5.6 and 8.0 binaries are generating events in a way that wasn't understood by each other. And both issues have since been fixed and upstreamed. Some other issues that we've hit include stuff like MySQL admin no longer issuing com shutdown. Instead, it uses the shutdown query instead to achieve the same thing. Because we skipped 5.7, we actually missed the opportunity to make the migration there, since in 5.7 they've actually deprecated the com shutdown RPC. Another issue that we've hit is we have a lot of automation just using regexes to parse various output from MySQL and other scripts and command line tools. And if this output slightly changes, then our regexes stop working. So we had a few cases where our automation has been broken because of regexes. So yeah, in summary, we've finished migrating our clients over to 8.0. We're almost finishing up porting our server-side changes to 8.0, and we're currently in the process of updating our automation to use the 8.0 APIs. We're definitely fixing bugs, discovering them, fixing them and upstreaming them. And also, as much as possible, we try to upstream our major features to Oracle so that we can reduce future work in porting to future major versions. Yep, so that's all I have. I guess in summary, MySQL 8 is coming to Facebook soon. Yep.
8.0 slave, did you directly apply 5.6 enough? Still like the normal replication?
Yes, yes. We've actually started we're starting to use RBR, like row-based replication, because we're not sure whether the SQL syntax in SBR still applies between the major versions, since the SQL syntax has changed a bit. So this is something, right. So we're using RBR for this purpose.
What kind of isolation level is most of your database?
Most of our databases use the default, which is repeatable read. But for MyRocks, we recommend people use read committed.
You said you were in the phase, obviously not completed the 8.0 migration. Can you give some sort of indication of what percentage of servers have been successfully migrated?
Can you repeat the first?
Yeah. Can you give some sort of indication of what percentage of your fleet has been successfully migrated to 8.0, or is it still a small?
So we've only actually successfully migrated our clients, right? We're still finishing up just porting the 8.0 patches, so we can't really upgrade to 8.0 servers until we finish porting.
You're not quite there yet, but you're close to the point
Right,
that
right.
you start to look to.
Right.
Yeah.
But for clients, they are upgraded, like all of them. Yeah.
So when you say that you're following upstream or so, do you have anything else than just the quarterly updates from Oracle, the GitHub repository?
I don't think I understood.
Do you rebase on the Oracle MySQL GitHub repository every quarter or something like that?
Yeah, we rebase regularly. I don't think we have a regular schedule per se. I think it's when major features come out and we're like, oh, we either want that feature or we want to make sure the upstream implementation is correct, that we decide to do a rebase. For example, we know for the async client patch, we probably want to rebase past 8.16.
You also join in the Percona?
Sorry?
You also join in things from Percona, or how is the relation between the different repositories?
We don't really pull anything in from Percona. They just help us do the porting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Another question on migration.
Yeah.
How are you using InnoDB, storage engine, and MyRocks? There's separate workloads?
Yeah, so for MyRocks, they're pretty much separate workloads at this point. For MyRocks, it serves our largest use case, which is like the social graph. But for most of our internal customers, like a lot of little smaller ones, they're on InnoDB because that's what they've been using since before we started deploying MyRocks.
So kind of like your set traffic is based on RocksDB, and most of the internal tools are used like InnoDB engine?
Yeah, basically, yeah. Our largest use cases use MyRocks, and most of our smaller long-tail services use InnoDB. And that's just because MyRocks came later than InnoDB.
So for 2 terabyte database migration goes to the like 8.0, how much? I mean, you definitely need to use MySQL dump, right?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Does that take?
It takes.
To import into a 8.0?
It takes quite a while. I think it takes right now about 8 hours, give or take. So, I mean, we're going to have to look into how we're going to speed this up as we're doing a migration. When we were migrating to MyRocks, though, we actually added functionality, bulk loading functionality to speed up the data loading now. But for 8.0 InnoDB, we're not sure what to do there yet. So. Okay, thank you, everyone.